Did Hendrick Motorsports throw away a win on Sunday in Las Vegas? Michael Jordan is taking NASCAR's countersuit personally, and are we about to see a Christopher Bell rule this week from NASCAR? Welcome back to Break Hard. I'm Matt. If you watched yesterday's race recap of Josh Berry, you saw the unedited, well, partially unedited version. You saw version 1, not version 2, which should have been uploaded. And if you missed it, well, it's just got some silent bits in it and me looking at my computer and then sniffling in the microphone, which is super annoying, but still better production value than what Fox is giving you on the NASCAR side of things. Before we get into our topics, I want to talk some merch, and I specifically want to talk about some Formula One merch to start off with, and that coming from Puma, their new Ferrari collection. And I'll be honest, I think the Tifosi are probably going to absolutely bust when they see it. You have this hat that is available to purchase, which appears to have been used by somebody to protect their hair in certain activities, if you're picking up what I'm putting down here. Yeah, not great. But to top it off, they've added to this collection. In a diabolical move, they've also included shorts for the collection, which look like they've been picked up off of a teenage boy's bedroom floor. Not ideal there. Absolutely crusty collection from Puma. Who approved this? You have to pick these things up with tongs. Don't put them underneath the blacklight. They're going to absolutely glow in the dark. Who approved this? It's like the Texas Rangers hat a few weeks ago, the one that said Titas on them, which you think you can put two and two together and understand what those are. I don't know who's buying this, but if you want to buy the hat, it's currently on sale on the Puma website for $40, which by Formula One and Ferrari standards is basically free. The shorts don't appear to be on the internet or for sale, at least in the store, which is definitely a good thing, but still, who's buying these? I just don't understand. Now, move on from that topic and move over to the NASCAR side of things real quick. Travelers Whiskey is talking about doing more partnerships in NASCAR. They, of course, sponsored Justin Allgaier's Daytona 500 entry for Junior Motorsports, and Junior Motorsports says that Justin Allgaier is still the #1 selling merch for the Cup Series in 2025. That is an absolutely crazy number because, well, Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson still very much race in the NASCAR Cup Series, but Justin Allgaier's merch is the #1 selling Cup merch this year for that number 40 car that he drove. And I'll say, when I was in Daytona, saw tons of it, and it all also looks really, really good. Those Traveler Whiskey hats that they had, the like beige looking ones, those are great looking hats. If you got your hands on one, congrats, because, well, it's probably one of the better looking hats that you're going to see this year from NASCAR. Now, let's get into what we actually want to talk about. Starting off, did Hendrick Motorsports throw away a possible win on Sunday in Las Vegas by giving up track position for a strategy that hinged on them getting a race to run caution-free until the end? So if you missed it on lap 195, the caution comes out, and teams have a decision to make. Either you stay out and hope that you can either stretch your fuel to the end, or you get a caution that'll just reset everything, or you pit now and you're going to be good to the end, and you just have to drive back through everybody and hope that they run out of fuel or have to pit. This is basically what happened last year in the fall race when Joey Logano was able to stretch it all the way to the end. Christopher Bell pitted in that final stint and was never able to catch back up to the 22 of Logano. He wins, goes on to the championship race, and then, the rest is history, as they say. Well, on Sunday, the 24 of William Byron and the 5 of Kyle Larson, along with a few others, elect to pit there and basically have like 70 laps until the end of the race, hoping that this race goes caution-free. That was the bed that they chose to lie in, and it didn't work out for it. Rudy Fugle talked about it to NASCAR.com, and he said that based on all of their, simulations and all their projections, everybody that stayed out was borderline to make it, unlikely to make it. Cliff Daniels talked about it, and he said that he thought about the same scenario that played out last fall, which gave the win to Joey Logano, and he said he kicked himself all offseason because that's the strategy that he should have gone with there as well. They tried to do that on Sunday, and the way things typically play out at the end of these Las Vegas races, it made sense, right? He needed the race to run green until the end. And typically, you don't see that many cautions. As Larry Mack actually pointed out yesterday on the Fox broadcast, typically the last caution of a Las Vegas race on average comes around with 25 laps to go. So they were banking on this just going caution-free to the end. However, I understand that, but when you look at the trend of the race yesterday, I would not have felt very confident in that race running to the end, caution-free, because we saw a lot of cautions on Sunday, a lot of tire issues as well. And to me, the probability of a caution coming out in those final 70 laps was definitely greater during the spring race yesterday than it was during last fall's race as well. So they took a gamble there, ultimately didn't pay off for them. Kyle Larson ends up coming home 9th, William Byron comes home 4th, and Hendrick Motorsports doesn't have a win to show for it, despite having probably two of the fastest cars all day. here's the thing. When you look at the loop data or data, depending on whatever TJ Majors feels like saying that day, there were 3 cars that had the highest average running position during Sunday's race. One of them was Kyle Larson, one of them was William Byron, the other, race winner, Josh Berry. All of them had an 8th place average running position, and well, at least one of them went to victory lane. I think on just pure speed, probably the 5 car was the quickest car there all day. He led the most laps at like 61 or 60 laps, now the all-time laps leader at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And after the race, he got out and said, hey, my car felt better today than it has ever at Las Vegas, at least in the Gen 7 era, and he's got 2 wins in Las Vegas. So if you're a competitor, you probably don't love to hear that, especially coming back in the fall and this being a playoff race once again. But if you're a Larson fan, you're probably happy about it. Ultimately, they took a gamble. It didn't pay off. Ross Chastain also pitted with them. He still managed to get a top 5 out of this as well. So yeah, I think once they got mired back in traffic, it just didn't work out for them. And for Logano, the strategy played exactly into his favor, just reverse of what it was last fall, except he had a really bad pit stop there at the end, and that doomed his finish there going towards the end. Allowed Josh Berry, Daniel Suarez, Ryan Preece all to get, the podium finishes, which is just not the top 3 I think anybody expected going into Sunday. But yeah, it feels like Hendrick maybe threw one away. While I understand the strategy call there, I think that looking at the trend of the race, it just didn't make sense at that point. But hey, you still had the opportunity to capitalize on it and ultimately just kind of got mired back in traffic. In the Last Dance, from Michael Jordan sitting in the chair and he says, and it became personal for me. Yeah, he's saying the same thing about the NASCAR countersuit against his team, 2311 Racing, Front Row Motorsports, as well as his business partner Curtis Polk. When NASCAR countersued the teams as well as Curtis Polk a little bit over a week ago at this point, yeah, they named Curtis Polk in that, and they said that he was basically the orchestrator by trying to get teams to boycott, and he's the reason that the whole negotiation kind of dragged on forever and violated the Sherman Act, all these things. And Michael Jordan, yeah, he's walking in lockstep with his longtime business partner, Curtis Polk. Jenna Fryer from the Associated Press ran a story about this on Monday, talking about the 2311 Curtis Polk side of things in this, and Michael Jordan, through a spokeswoman, he said, quote, Curtis and MJ stand united. His perspective is if you're coming after Curtis, you're coming after him. He doesn't look at this as just business, it's personal. And I think that's probably the sentiment a lot of people at 2311 Racing carry about this, because when NASCAR countersued the teams, they named Curtis Polk specifically in that, which is kind of odd. But remember, when the teams sued NASCAR, they specifically named Jim France as well. And NASCAR pointed that out to Jenna Fryer, who said that when they talk about making it personal, they made it personal when they sued Jim France as well, or at least named him in their original lawsuit. So going forward, these two sides certainly aren't going to see eye to eye about anything right now. And Denny Hamlin and everybody continues to question what NASCAR kind of said through their lawyer, where they're saying that Curtis Polk doesn't understand the sport side of things, like the NASCAR side of things, which just doesn't make sense, because the guy has been around business long enough. He understands how the business model works. He clearly doesn't agree with the business model, but he understands how it works here, and that's what he's trying to change. So you can argue that side, until you're blue in the face about whether he understands it or not. There was one interesting part of this AP story, though, that I actually was kind of surprised by, and somebody came to the defense of Curtis Polk that I didn't expect to see his name listed here, and that being Richard Childress. I'm going to read you the quote that Richard Childress gave to the AP, and it's in Richard Childress' talk. It's not grammatically correct at all, so I apologize if I struggle to read it, because it just hurts my brain to read this at this point. But he says, quote, Curtis hadn't did anything that anyone else hadn't did. He didn't do nothing that everybody else on the RTA did, and that's all I will say. Curtis didn't do anything to anybody, and that's the quote. The beginning of that, the hadn't did anything that anyone else hadn't did. Curtis hasn't done anything that anyone else hadn't done. What is so difficult about getting that part of it just out of your mouth instead of that, the word vomit that is that first sentence there? But I was surprised that Childress came to the defense here, and I wonder if Richard is one of those team owners that really didn't want to sign, but ultimately had to guarantee that his charters were still there. One of the big talking points when they countersued and NASCAR said that they would just scrap the entire charter system, is what happens to the teams that did sign the charter agreement. Well, it appears that some teams think that NASCAR said that to try to get the teams to pressure 2311 Racing, Front Row Motorsport to settle, to drop, to do something like that. And as one team executive pointed out, we have a 7-year contract with them through the media rights. They can't just bail on it now. So we'll see how all of this plays out going forward. But yeah, Michael Jordan, it's personal for him now. And last but not least, are we about to get a Christopher Bell rule this week from NASCAR? If you missed it on Sunday, Bell pitted and his team left the left front tire loose on the car. As he's driving down pit lane, his crew chief, Adam Stevens, keys up the mic and he's like, stop in somebody's pit box, have them tighten the wheel for you. So he swings into the 19 pit box down pit lane. His teammate, they go ahead and tighten that left front tire, send him back out on the racetrack. And instead of having a 2-lap penalty for losing a tire and having 2 of his crew members get suspended for 2 races, he instead just has to start at the back of the line on the restart. A smart play by them, but are we going to see NASCAR update this rule where you can't do that? There's been a lot of talk about it on the internet, within the industry and things like that. And teams have known about this, or at least the Toyota teams have known about this for a little while now. And obviously this is the first time we've ever seen anybody utilize it, which for Bell, I wonder if stopping in the 19 pit box is a little concerning considering that they already lost 1 wheel earlier in the race. But I'm interested to hear what his thoughts on that were. Worked out great for him. But will we see an update where NASCAR is going to not allow teams to do this? Because, well, what if you're just a single car team like a Ricky Stenhouse Jr. or Rick Ware Racing, somebody like that, and you don't have a teammate's pit box that you can pull into? Or you're just going to pull into a random pit box and be like, hey, can you guys, tighten my wheels for me? And are they going to even want to do that? It remains to be seen. On the other side of things, where people will talk about it being unfair to the smaller teams, the people that don't have a teammate or, something like that. From a safety aspect, I have zero problem with the guy doing this because it means that the wheel's not going to fall off. And ultimately, that's what everybody should be concerned about, is the safety aspect of this. Because imagine if that's a green flag pit stop and say Christopher Bell comes off pit road, loses the left front tire, and then somebody hits it and it goes, over the fence and into the infield like we've seen happen before, or into the grandstand. God forbid something like that happen. Yeah, I think it's okay that he stopped in the pit box to get it tightened and then just serves a penalty. If it does happen under green flag, obviously it's a pass through there, and that's going to be more detrimental than what happened under caution. But regardless, I don't have an issue with it, but I'm interested to see if NASCAR is going to update this rule or take it away or something like that, because obviously there's an argument to be made for those smaller teams, but at the same time, I would argue that the safety aspect of it is better. Yeah, it sucks if you're not pitted at the beginning of pit road and have to drive the whole distance down and have the opportunity to swing into somebody else's. If you're like the first 2 pit boxes, then you're kind of screwed there. Or if you don't have teammates, you're screwed again. But how many times have we seen this happen? Exactly once. So it's not like it's happening every single week where we need to make a big deal about it. It's not the Ross Chastain wall ride type of thing. I think we just let it keep going until if it gets super out of hand, then yeah, revisit it. But for now, we've seen it happen one time, and ultimately it was in the name of safety is really what it comes down to. So I don't have a problem with it. Let me know in the comments what you think about the new Ferrari merch. Did Hendrick Motorsports throw away a win? Michael Jordan taking it personally. Christopher Bell stopping into the pit box and getting his tire tightened, not by his crew though. Like and subscribe to the channel. Follow me on TikTok @BreakHard, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook @BreakHard.